Hello, welcome back to the Level 1 show, and we're doing government and social stories. Today's September 6th. It is the official start of meteorological fall.
I'm back.
And Ryan's gone. Everyone in this office is slowly falling apart, so...
I had a piece of toast after midnight. I had to go to the hospital.
I had to go to the hospital, yeah. Ryan's fine. He's seeing a doctor later this week, but...
It's fine. Maybe. Probably.
Probably
but
fine.
you know what's not fine? Oh, this is not even... Is this even the first story? Yeah, this is
It's the first story.
It's definitely not fine.
U.S. Oh, I can't read it because I'm blind. U.S. asked British spy agency to stop Guardian publishing Snowden revelations.
So...
You guys may have heard of Snowden.
Yeah, I mean, this was during, like, the revelation. It was broken by The Guardian, not a U.S. newspaper, because nobody in the U.S. wanted to carry this story, apparently.
For some strange reason.
And the relationship here was buddy enough. Like, this is really disturbing when you dig into this. It's like, oh well, we knew that it might harm the relationship with the NSA, but asking a newspaper not to run this story is a step too far. That's a quote from the guy. It's like,
yeah.
Maybe doing it in the first place is a step too far. Did you ever think about that?
There was a quote from someone in the story where they're like, we don't really care about the public relations of the NSA, so that's why we published it. But it was weird that they even asked.
It was weird that they even asked. But that tells you a lot about the relationship between these organizations and what other shenanigans has been going on behind the scenes that they did say, well, okay, we could see not publishing this. There's some rot inside the Tree of Liberty or something. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
We can declare war on corruption. Meanwhile, Japan's going to declare war on
floppy disks. Japan declares war on floppy disks for government use.
So there's some procedures in Japan. Apparently, you have to submit your request on a floppy disk.
What year is it? I don't think I've handled a floppy disk in at least 15 years.
Yeah, there are about 1,900 government procedures that requires the business community to use disks, floppy disks, CD, MD, to submit applications and other forms. So this is basically just saying, we should probably just allow all this online.
Or just have some way of, just handling it.
Okay.
That's not a floppy disk.
Sounds good. Ars Technica has this.
To save lives, issue connected vehicle technology waiver, NTSB tells FCC.
The FCC left 30 megahertz of bandwidth for connected vehicle to whatever applications. We talked about this not last week, but the week before.
Week before, I think.
And they've been sitting on this spectrum for like 20 years. Part of this screeching is to just try to hang on to the spectrum so they could eventually use it for something. And part of it may actually light a fire under their butt to finally do something with it.
And before it's just advertising.
Yeah,
car-to-car it's always just advertising.
Car-to-car analytics. So there's a couple of rules, I guess, that automakers are saying, well, it would be nice if we could, blah, blah, blah. So maybe they would be able to do this. But really, I think this was just a bit of a hurrah in the automakers not wanting to give up that spectrum because maybe they could monetize it some other way later. But vehicle-to-vehicle safety, they've already had the spectrum for years. They just didn't do anything with it.
Isn't it like 20 years or something? It's a long time they've had it and not done anything with it.
Yeah. So we'll see approximately 1 million vehicle-to-whatever cars in Europe by 2024 to 2025. Or 10 million by around 2024 to 2025. So, I don't know. I like there's one of these vehicle-to-vehicle standards was a not super modified version of what light aircraft use, and that seemed like a reasonable implementation as well for vehicle-to-vehicle communications. You know what other data might be shared by vehicle-to-vehicle communications?
This one's pretty terrible. A huge Chinese database of faces and vehicle license plates has spilled online. This almost could have been in the security section, but I guess it is technically. It's the Chinese government. It's the surveillance state.
Yeah, so it's like, what could possibly go wrong if we maintain 800 million records representing one of the biggest known data security lapses of the year by scale? 800 million.
It is technically, I guess, a subcontractor of the Chinese government, but I mean, it was made because of Chinese surveillance, so.
I mean, good Lord, just why? And now imagine all the vehicle-to-vehicle data and... it's like, I saw this vehicle here, and it can be corroborated by other vehicles.
Well, yeah, because it was for workplaces, it was for, parking garages, literally anything that you interacted with. Yeah. So you're probably in it if you're a Chinese citizen.
Even if you do your due diligence and, you're driving a 1976
Yeah.
Ford Escape. It's just, it doesn't
A land
matter.
yacht. It doesn't matter.
It's like, oh, the emissions people made me put this box on my engine. And it's like, oh, that's for your vehicle-to-vehicle communications. Switching gears a little bit.
The U.S. may soon learn what a kid-friendly internet looks like. So I want to get your take on this. I read this article and I was like, why don't we just have these kind of privacy protections for everybody? Like that was my takeaway, but
I don't understand why we wouldn't just, if we're going to do this, just create a separate internet that
for
is
children.
that's for kids, that's on the internet, but you go there and it's like, in order to participate in this, your stuff has to be reviewed. That seems like
Kind of what they kind of say that they're like, we don't want kids to have all their data sold online, which seems like it's fair enough to me. But and like they want to make it so if you're on a website and you're under 18, it automatically doesn't sell your data. Like you don't have to go into an option and checkbox a bunch of stuff saying don't sell my data, don't blah blah blah.
we already have that for kids under 13. But the other thing about this is that they want, children might reasonably use, quote unquote, this service.
Yeah, but that's not defined, so that's
Yeah.
kind of hazy. I'm like, couldn't we just make it so every user experience makes it so it automatically protects your privacy?
Yeah, it's like some of the bill's critics argue that the ADCA scope is over-inclusive. Opponents include a video game trade ban, the Entertainment Software Association, and TechNet, a group whose members include Google, Meta, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, it's overreaching. Well, it's going to make them liable. So, I mean, the cynical thing is to say, well, of course, Google and other companies don't want this because it's going to make them liable because blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that if you want to protect your children online, you have to monitor what they're doing online, full stop.
Right.
Do you let your children play after midnight in a dark alley in a really crowded inner city neighborhood? No. Why would you, oh, they should be able to play down by the hypodermic needle factory. Why
should be
isn't that
fine,
safe?
yeah.
And it's like, well, I've got some news for you.
Yeah, I don't know. On one hand, I was like, not selling kids' data seems like a good idea, but considering they didn't actually define how they were going to determine literally anything, it seems like maybe just...
This would create a bigger mess than just doing it right to begin with.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fun stuff. Engagement challenge is like, is there a better alternative than just here's a whitelist and it'll do its thing? There's a gaming coalition. It's like Tanky Gaming, something like that. Very whitelisted organization, and they've done like their approach is sort of the correct approach. It's like we as an organization are willing to be responsible for this. Yes, that's how you do it. Seems reasonable.
The only thing that I took from this that I thought was a good idea was that companies can no longer just like hide all their privacy settings behind 20 things. It's all just enabled by default. We should all have that. That should not just be for children.
Yeah.
That's something that they can absolutely implement. And it seems like that would be a clear-cut piece of legislation, but no.
We should have that in a way that's not as ham-fisted as that.
Yeah.
Outline
It shouldn't
in this
just be
article.
for kids, and it shouldn't have all this other crap in it.
Speaking of ham-fisted,
The Fed gives a timeline for FedNow, its payments platform.
so if you owe the Fed money, okay. It's like FedNow is a platform that the Fed will provide banks to build on top of and create payment features in existing or new products. Products enabled by FedNow will have nearly instant settlement around the clock. Ever needed a cashier's check after all the bank branches had closed? FedNow could be an answer for that kind of situation. So this is going to bring things into the 20th century, basically. Oh, wait, aren't we in the 21st century?
When does the 22nd start?
Not soon enough.
Yeah, well, who knows what fresh hells will be in the 22nd, so...
Oh, I imagine Ryan was was getting a good kick out of this article.
Yeah, there were two or three articles like this in this section. California asks residents not to charge electric vehicles days after announcing gas car ban.
So California doesn't want you to be able to buy an internal combustion engine in the not too distant future. And then a few days after they announced that, it's like, they plan to ban the sale of gas-powered cars by 2035. Okay, but also don't charge your electric. If you're an early adopter, you're too early. Our electrical grid's not there yet.
Yeah, well, if you don't know, California's under a massive heat wave right now, and it's putting some strain on their grid, to put it lightly. So they ask people, hey, when you get home from work, that's peak hours because everyone's getting home from work. Please don't charge your electric car during that time.
Also, don't control your thermostat. Oh, foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah, that was a dark story.
This is a business story in government because it's caused by government. But yeah, it's really interesting. Reuters.
New U.S. curbs on sales of Nvidia AI chips to China spark sell-off.
Not just Nvidia, also AMD. But Nvidia's latest products for the H100 and the V100 AI, that sort of thing, the U.S. has stepped in and said, don't sell those to China, which has created a really interesting situation because some of the components for those are imported from China. And so Nvidia basically had to immediately turn around and say, look, we have some intellectual property that's being produced in China, and we're sourcing some design components and some other stuff from China. This is going to make things really awkward, because the expectation here is that we'll be able to sell our products
in China.
And it seems like the answer is going to be no.
Is the U.S., I think, just trying to angle so that way they move production here instead of in China?
I mean, some of the components of this, certainly, sure. It also seems like that it's not an outright ban. Some of this stuff will still be allowed. It's just that you have to get approval first. It's like, okay, this organization can buy it. This organization can buy it. The article talks about how in Hong Kong, there's a subsidiary, an NVIDIA subsidiary in Hong Kong. They're going to be allowed to fill orders through, some of the orders through March 2023 and some of the orders through September 2023. So this is not a very super sudden thing. But I'm sure that, if you're NVIDIA, it's really annoying. And the stock market has certainly reacted.
Yeah.
And this also goes for AMD, and some of AMD's high-end products are also on that list. So, maybe not a good time to be opening up an AI research center in China. Speaking of which,
Toyota triples planned investment to $3.8 billion in U.S. battery plant.
Well, I mean, people in California aren't going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine.
Yeah, this is kind of where the industry's going, it looks like, so it's not too surprising.
We need batteries, so maybe we might finally see some improvements in battery technology.
Remember there for a while, it was like for a year solid. Every other week we'd have new battery breakthrough, and then it wasn't like not really a thing.
You can take some maple syrup and some clabbered milk, mix it together, and then you have the ultimate storage device. Or you could run your whole home off of a gallon of clabbered milk. And
I don't think that's true.
We never heard from those guys again. What's going on? Yeah, it's.
But maybe this time we'll be right.
Speaking of guys we never heard from again.
Germany orders September 1st shutdown of digital ad displays to save gas and save power because they're also struggling with power.
Yeah, the natural gas going into the electrical plants. Germany's doing pretty well in the reserves. They've got 80% of their reserves in already, and it's September, and but that doesn't mean that they're not going without. It's like, hey, let's plan a little bit here.
They're worried for winter. Yeah.
Not just digital signs either. It's also government buildings and some other power-saving measures. So this is probably a good thing. I think
this
people
is
would rather
a net
have,
positive.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather have heat or outdoor signage?
Well, do you remember when there was the big snowstorm in Texas in 2021, and people were furious online because downtown, like all of it was lit up with all the ads and like the sparkling lights. People were like, we can't heat our homes, but all of downtown's still lit up. So Germany's probably looked at that and was like, ooh, let's get ahead of that now.
All of downtown is still operational, and they're paying $1,000 per kilowatt hour to keep that sign on. Oh, this is kind of a dupe, kind of a follow-up from a couple of weeks ago.
FTC sues massive data broker for selling location info on abortion clinics.
And my take on this is much like your take on the other one. Is like, maybe we could just not have data brokers.
Yeah. Like maybe we just stop doing that. Maybe we just stop selling data.
The FTC is like, well, here's the line. Don't cross this line. And that line is really far away from where I would put that line.
Yeah. Why don't we just not keep stuff like that?
Oh, no.
Unless it's like relevant if you're like a doctor.
I accidentally closed the tab. No.
Oh. Reload? No. Reopen should be.
Where's my reopen?
Oh, there's not one.
Uh-oh. How did I mess that up? Reopen,
Whoops.
Close tab. Oh, well.
It's gone forever.
Anyway.
FBI says it routinely notifies social media companies of potential threats following Zuckerberg and Rogan podcast.
So I guess the news story here is that Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, and they had really practiced his, human algorithms.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. Ryan said he was going to, but I mean, he's out today, so I didn't hear anything else about it other than like, yeah, he's a robot and not a particularly interesting guest.
What did you think about it? I think one of the things, if I remember correctly, one of the things that he said was, whenever I get up every morning, being the CEO of Meta is just, I get out of bed and it's immediately I'm punched in the stomach.
Oh yeah, he said whenever he like opens his notifications, which I was like, well, that's just part of living in the 21st century, dude. Like, you get up, you look at your phone, and you see your emails, and then you see the horrible world headlines, and then you go, oh. Instead of looking out your window and looking at all the beautiful sunshine and birds.
I'm imagining the meme where it's the principal Skinners at from The Simpsons. And it's like, no, it's the children who are wrong. At some point in a billionaire's life, they've got to experience that where it's like, maybe I should be a little more introspective and think about what I'm doing. And it's like, no, I'm a billionaire. Obviously, it's the rest of the world that's wrong. Like,
Or I would think, I feel like I'm the kind of person where I would reach a certain level of success, like what Zuckerberg has reached, and I would be like, no, that's good. Like, I'm just going to live, I'm just going to coast and do whatever I want now.
I'm going to go to the villa. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can afford. It's like, there's a luminary that I really like and I'm interested in. I can just afford to have them come out to the house for a week or two.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's really intent on making the metaverse a thing.
This is also in the story, and it was misrepresented a little bit, but
yeah, Taiwan shoots down unidentified drone over island near China.
now they were able. There were
This was a Taiwanese island.
Yeah, there were like
Claimed
three
by
of these, and so is this escalating tensions between China and Taiwan? Some people were saying it was a civilian drone. Other people were saying it was a modified civilian drone. It's really hard to know what exactly is going on here, other than there's a lot of tension between this island, which belongs to Taiwan, and China mainland.
China. Yeah, China. I think it's like 2 miles from China. This little island.
So it's kind of like, what's going on?
The Chinese officials said that they think it was just a civilian and they don't know anything about it. But I mean, they're not going to say, no, that was our spy drone. So I mean.
There's a Chinese TikToker that's trying to get some really amazing drone aerial footage, and they're accidentally going to spark a war.
Yeah, well, it's they said that they shot several flares at it first, just to like give it a warning, like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, and it didn't react, and then they shot it down. So.
Speaking of things that are somewhere they're not supposed to be.
Iran approves cryptocurrency regulations, raising fears of skirting sanctions.
So if Iran approves cryptocurrency, then people elsewhere in the world could send them things of value, and Iran has a lot of sanctions from a lot of countries.
I mean, that's not surprising, right?
So, business as usual then.
Yeah, that's okay.
I suppose.
Oh, did you skip to the end?
No? Did I? No.
Oh, okay. No, sorry, I misread that.
Next story. This is just this is the
It's
same
kind of a
story.
repeat, yeah.
California ass resident, yeah.
Because of the intense heat wave. I think when I looked at the weather report for that area, I think it was like 107 in a few places, which seems like that's very high for California.
Yeah. Now, domestically, we've got the CHIPS Act and all the stuff that's coming with that. And there's some news out of Taiwan about that as well.
Taiwan president says she looks forward to producing democracy chips with the U.S. That's like kind of has the same vibe as freedom fries.
Yeah.
When we renamed French fries.
Yeah, and being the president of Taiwan, they probably, she's probably got her stuff together. She probably understands what's going on. You got to, at some point, it's like, oh, they're meeting with who in the U.S. government? Oh, I'm so embarrassed because they should be meeting with the best of the best and not.
Is there a best of the best in the U.S. government? Like, who's our top brass right now?
We do really need to produce chips domestically, but it's like we have a meeting with basically, Bob, the intern, and it's probably not good.
He'll send an email out to the higher ups, but they won't ever read it.
Yeah, no, it's like no one really understands. No one really.
No.
But she's here. She's trying to be nice. She understands. So it's good.
Oh, for the next story, how excited were you for this?
You got to pay for it.
Yeah. Twitter starts testing an edit button, but you have to pay for it. It is only for, I think, verified users right now.
I haven't even seen anybody with an edited tweet.
I haven't seen an edited tweet. I did see this particular tweet. This is an edited tweet. We're testing it. My favorite take on it, though, someone was like, what happens with quoted tweets? Will they automatically update with the edit tag? Or?
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
No, they won't. It's also a lot of fun because when you've got a hot take on Twitter, it's already the case that you just automatically screenshot whatever it is that you're responding to because they'll just delete it.
Right.
So, and then
That's just part of being online anymore.
yeah, people will come in later and be like, I can't see what you're responding to. It's because it was deleted.
Yeah.
But a screenshot.
A screenshot can still be edited really easily, but at least it's something, I guess.
Could be worse. Could definitely be worse.
I don't think it's a bad feature, though. And I like that. So when you click on like the edited part, like the little pencil or whatever, it'll show you all the versions. So it'll be hard for someone to just be like, here's something that everyone agrees with, and then changing it to something terrible.
So meanwhile, Twitter is working on the edit button. They were also working on being their own OnlyFans, but then they ran into some problems.
How Twitter's... I can't say that.
Problem.
How Twitter's problem ruined its plans for an OnlyFans competitor.
So it turns out there was already a lot of adult content on Twitter when they started to do this, and I looked into it.
And a lot of it was non-consensual and unfortunately involving minors.
Yeah, it was not great. So what do? You just freeze up. You just freeze up and, you delete it, I guess. You go nuts deleting things. But
apparently it's still a major problem. And according to the internal report, they do not have the means to monitor it, even if it was behind a paywall, a la OnlyFans.
So literally cannot have a paywall because that would only make the problem worse. Ugh.
Why is everything so terrible?
It's not a good look for Twitter. I wonder if that's going to end up in Musk's lawsuit. So Musk will cite this as like, well, I didn't know this was so much of a problem because they've never really represented this as a problem to shareholders. And so, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We have a little bit of a follow-up about Musk and Twitter later. So
yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself with it. We're still in government. There's so many government
No, I think we're in social now.
Or social.
Yeah. So we should... I think the Musk story is in social. So
I mean, we're not on the next episode of the news where we can talk about this. I'm sorry. The next episode of the show.
The show, yeah. It's not news. It's just links that we share.
Just links we share.
And here's our next link. Real money, fake musicians inside $1 million Instagram verification scheme. This is the most tragically pathetic thing that I have ever read.
This was so convoluted. I had trouble following what was actually happening.
It took me a couple reads.
It wasn't until I realized that something that I would never value was really highly valued by these people. And so, and then it made more sense.
Yeah, so people want that blue check mark because, it's the clout of being on the gram and having the blue check mark. You can't easily get it for things, I guess, like television or like I'm a well-known doctor. But apparently it's really easy to get it through Spotify. Like if you have a lot of plays and listens on Spotify. So people just made Spotify accounts, put some random music on it, and then botted it. And then Instagram was like, oh, that looks legit, and gave them a check mark.
Yeah. Oops.
And there was a lot more details to it, but that's the gist. It was apparently kind of like... I read that article and I was like, some journalist had to spend how many months probably putting together all that evidence and then had to write about it, and then they got busted. And
yeah, if we did an episode of this on it, we would earn $1.35. So
yeah, it's kind of, it reads a little bit like fandom drama.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like fandom for Instagram, which is strange.
Somebody was really excited about what they discovered.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, all I could sit there thinking was, who cares? And
right.
Really, are we putting this much work into this?
Yeah.
Imagine if we put that much work into curing cancer.
That's how I felt after I did my Lord of the Rings essay. I was like, who cares? Like, why did I do this? Why?
Well, that was at least entertaining.
It was entertaining. Unlike apparently the new show, which apparently is mostly just kind of beautiful but dull.
And unlike Netflix, soon.
Snap's chief business officer is leaving to run ads at Netflix.
Netflix is working on a cheaper ad-supported tier after jacking up the prices and driving subscribers away.
See, I feel like that's Hulu's model, and I never understood why anyone would pay for Hulu and then have to watch ads. Yeah. You're paying to watch ads.
There's really not much to this Verge story, but just one person has left. And it's always fun to watch the reactions in Ad Age because... this is
Ad
new
Age
innovation.
Is such a weird magazine.
It's so exciting, and then you look at it. It's like, who would be excited for this? Only people in the ad industry.
Well, I mean, Ad Age is an industry magazine, but they are really enthusiastic about everything.
As an industry magazine, they should constantly be reminding people that the stuff that you do is basically optional and can go away at any time.
It's intangible. It's not real. It don't matter. None of this matters.
I'm sure some people at Snap are feeling that way too.
Snap plans to lay off 20% of employees. So this is very boomer of me, but I had a moment I was like, Snap. And then it's like Snapchat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, when did they change their name? I completely missed that. Because
Their-
Snapchat's not relevant anymore.
Their stock price has declined nearly 80% this year. 80%.
Yeah. And they had hired, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, almost double their workforce. So they are not doing so hot right now.
Yeah, they worked on ways for developers to build mini apps and games inside of Snapchat, and no one cared.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Well, and the thing is, like, Snap used to be kind of popular because it had all the filters and stuff, but now every app has that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch, but it seems like it isn't as relevant as it used to be.
We can make our app difficult to use because people will keep coming back because of the filters, or they'll just use something else.
That also has filters now.
Speaking of which,
Facebook is shutting down its standalone gaming app in October.
man, remember when they launched this and they were so excited about this? This is going to change our metrics forever. It's going to keep people engaged. Remember Farmville? Remember how successful...
Farmville was massive in the day.
And then there were a bunch of games that started out as Facebook games and became wildly successful, even more wildly successful when they moved away from Facebook. Was Peggle one of those? I don't know if it was...
remember that.
Maybe Peggle or Candy Crush.
Candy Crush was on Facebook for a while, I think.
I mean, I think one of those games, maybe not Peggle or Candy Crush, but one of those games that you've heard of was insanely popular on Facebook and Facebook games. And then they just went out on their own. And then everybody was like, this is the best thing since Pocket on a Shirt. And
they still played it, yeah.
It turned out Facebook wasn't relevant for that equation.
Yeah, like YouTube kind of tried to do this too with YouTube gaming, and like it had middling success, but like YouTube has quite a bit of gaming content, so it makes a little more sense. Facebook, their main demographic, probably not interested in it.
And I'm sure what Mark Zuckerberg wanted was, if you want to experience the original Flappy Bird, you must come to Facebook
gaming. Yeah. Well, and why don't they should put all their resources into Marketplace, because that's the only thing Facebook's good for.
Let local people connect with one another and complain about local things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you get a mob, though, sometimes. Speaking of which,
Scoop, Truth Social's Google Play Store holdup. This article was really funnily written, I thought.
Yeah, Google is basically saying the Truth Social app is not going to be allowed because they don't moderate their content enough.
My favorite part, though, was that, so they're both complaining that the other one is the holdup. So the guy who runs Truth Social was like, I don't know what the holdup is. That was his only quote in the article. And then Google's like, here's this well-reasoned response about why you're not on here and you need to make some changes. And they're like, I don't know why it's not working.
For example, in response to a post from National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, former security advisor, an account called The Victim 24 posted last week, it'd be nice if you people weren't just okay with the military police staging a rebellion and framing civilians. 0 people trust the police, and if the military comes in, we will kill them.
It's like, ooh. But apparently that wasn't flagged or like marked as, hey, this is a little bit extreme.
Yeah, and so Google's like, well, if you have that on there, we cannot...
we can't publish it.
We can't have that, yeah.
Also, the real takeaway from this article was that Android users are only 44%.
Wow.
Which I kind of thought was a little surprising. I guess a lot of people use iPhones, but... Because Apple Store allows it, but Google does not.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do, and there definitely is room to do it well. The problem is that the crazies have made both, like you can't go anywhere and not find crazies on either side of the spectrum. You can't have a reasonable conversation anymore. It's like, oh, let's come together and, try to empathize with one another and understand what our differences are. It's literally, I couldn't get Granny Smith apples at the store today. It's your fault. Let's stage a military intervention.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa. You think maybe we could be okay with Honeycrisps for just a few days? And it's
no. Yeah,
that's... Like, are you North Korean?
Yeah, this is, we're living in strange times where it does feel, even like stupid things are super polarized now.
Yeah. We really should help some of the states with their infrastructure, drinking water.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's no money for that. Okay, well.
But you're sending in the National Guard, which seems like a Band-Aid solution, and you still have to pay them. So,
our next story is kind of fun because I don't think that it's willingly becoming this.
Yeah, Twitter is becoming a podcast app. They introduced a feature a while back where you could do like vocal hangout kind of things, and now people are using Twitter to do podcasts.
Hot pod. Woo. The thing that's the problem with that is anytime I'm on Twitter, it's usually because I have to read. Like
You're like out in public or something. Yeah.
I wouldn't really want that.
I
We had that in the 80s. Remember the people that walked around with boom boxes? Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Well, and I feel like I'm maybe a little bit alone in this. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I listen to like a couple. I listen to the L1 show. Patreon float plane. But no, I don't see, especially from Twitter. I feel like it wouldn't curate my list very well.
Yeah, for media like that I consume, I like getting it. I like having my phone or my computer go and get it and collect it for me, and then when I have a block of time, I can, zoom through a bunch of things. And that's nice.
Yeah.
I don't have to go get it because it's too much work to go get it. I need it brought to me. Speaking of things brought to you.
Good segue. Facebook parent settles in Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is a weirdly written headline. It should be Meta.
Yeah.
Meta settles this lawsuit.
But it's not for a lot of money. Like I'm kind of surprised about this.
That was probably just, whatever. Write the check.
Yeah, and this whole the whole conclusion to the Cambridge Analytica saga, even in the AP, is just a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot here.
Not a lot of detail.
And Sheryl Sandberg? She's still retiring, right? Yeah, who's stepping down after a 14-year stint. Yeah, she could be questioned for up to 5 hours. So
she read the writing on the wall. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah, she's going to the villa that we discussed earlier. It's like, you know what? I've got enough. I'm good.
I'm done. Yeah. I don't believe in the metaverse.
And you teased this earlier.
Yes. Musk versus Twitter. Judge orders both sides to turn over more documents.
Ooh.
I thought that this was pretty fair. The judge who was like, hey, you're both kind of being unreasonable here.
I thought it was pretty fair. And I thought that, in terms of establishing credibility for some of the stuff that Musk was saying, I think Musk came out a little bit ahead here. Because some of the stuff that he asked for them to turn over, I thought was, well, okay, here's where you said this, and then we have this document, and if you read both of those, it does look like there's a discontinuity there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there were other things that Musk had done, and it's like, well, this is clearly maneuvering. So.
Well, yeah, and I guess Musk apparently asked for like an obscene amount of documents from like years ago that were apparently only vaguely relevant, and the judge was like, no, you can get stuff from like 6 months ago, but you don't need stuff from like 5 years ago.
Explain to me how you're going to use that to determine what's relevant about the company now, which is reasonable.
Yeah, so I felt like this was this was a very reasonable development overall. I don't know if anyone came out ahead necessarily, but
the only one who wins are the lawyers.
Yeah, that's who came out ahead in this, and they will continue to come out ahead no matter who wins.
And our final, most depressing story is...
I have a different take. 1 in 4 Gen Z-ers plan to become social media influencers.
Oh, the thing that set the tone for the article for me was, what was it? It was about men specifically.
Men were more into it. They were more clout chasers than women.
Well, it was... men saw the only possible path for their career was to become an influencer.
49%
it's just like,
of Gen Zers. I looked at the actual study that like their website. It didn't define Gen Z, so I'm not sure how old these people were. I'm assuming more on the younger side of Gen Z. The thing I thought about it when I kind of like changed the wording in my head, it made a little more sense. If you change influencer to salesperson, advertiser, that might make more sense.
Yeah, if you do that, maybe it's.
I mean, it's still kind of pathetic because I imagine there's still a lot of like, ooh, I'll get to go to exotic places, and like it's a little childish to think that. But if you think about it, like, oh, I'll just be a salesperson for brands. That's been a thing for as long as ever.
Yeah, well, I think that it speaks to a deeper thing that we as a society have failed if that is the only thing that those folks see as fulfilling. That's not their fault. That's
what's being peddled everywhere.
Yeah, that's what they
consume.
brought up to believe. It's like you could be a plumber or an electrician, that's what I always go to. And it's like, you can have lots of really awesome, it's like, you built this thing. Somebody is going to be using the plumbing that you installed in that house for the next 100 years. As
It's
long as
physical
the house,
and tangible, and like you
Yeah.
go home at the end of the day and you feel like you've done something.
is anybody going to be digging through episodes of the Level 1 show in 100 years?
You don't know that.
Probably not.
This is all that's going to survive the coming apocalypse, and this is all they'll have to like judge our society on.
There's a guy in this building. They installed the cast iron plumbing about 1913, and he installed a combination TY when he should have used a 90-degree bend. So he made a mistake doing the plumbing. It should have had a different bend radius, and because it was too gentle of a slope, that particular arm constantly clogs. So that mistake has been with us for 100 years. And I'm thinking about them. And it's like, why did you do that? Did you, I know that you knew better than to put a combination TY in. Why would you do that? Was that all you had on the truck that day? Were you not thinking, was this meant to be something else?
Maybe that's how it was done back then. Like everyone did that same mistake.
It was wrong. So wrong. There are other fittings that were done correctly. But maybe there was something weird going on. I don't know. But you could do those horizontally, but vertically, why did you do that?
Whereas most social media content, it'll just be ephemeral and gone.
Yeah. It is fun though. If you look at 100-year-old newspapers, there are sections of the newspaper that read like a Facebook timeline. It literally is a Facebook timeline.
Well, that's like a thing. So in my little town that I grew up in, when I graduated college, my mom put a little thing in the newspaper, and like everyone does that in my little town. That's still a thing in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I was looking at 100-year-old newspapers from around here, and it was like, Miss B Samantha is visiting cousins in a town that's 12 miles away for the next month, and it's like,
so that way people can know to come visit her.
Yeah, it's like, why would she only moved? It's like 12 miles. We don't need to put a newspaper in that you went on a 12-mile trip to visit cousins.
But that's the thing, though. People want to connect.
And other ones was like, oh, they're going to be in Chicago. Don't rob their house.
It was sad to see like 49% of young Gen Z men thought this was their main career path forward. A lot of them said that if they were in college or if they had a job, they would quit if they had an opportunity to do this as well. Surprisingly high numbers.
I think that if you were doing something other than influencing, you can just share that and people will be interested in it. And that's more real and genuine anyway, because a lot of the people that, this talks about people that get $1 million on Instagram, the life they live and what is actually posted are completely different things. Once you get to that level,
it's all marketing, yeah.
And once you get to that level of success, it's not real anymore.
I mean, like us, we're just bathing in money and going to Buc-ee's every afternoon.
I'm replacing that cast iron with PVC for real.
Living in luxury. It's not even real. What you see in social media.
I'm fixing my boiler lines. I'm doing the computer janitorial thing.
Swimming in banana pudding every day.
Oh yeah, so much.
And your gold-plated pool of banana pudding.
Banana pudding. Yeah, see that wouldn't be real. It's because it's wildly impractical. But it's fun to think about. And that's all we've got for this episode. What have we got for tomorrow?
I don't think we have sorted. Ryan usually does the sorting, and so whenever it's just me and Wendell, it's just chaotic mode.
It's business and something.
Yeah, business was a long section. I think it'll probably be business and security.
Yeah, probably business and security. And then robot nonsense on Friday.
All right, we'll see you guys then. Bye!